Dav, I would like to invite Ron Davidson, please.
Oh, okay. So good morning, everybody, and thanks for having me over here. Let me just fix my biography in a second. I'm in a sense a kind of a proud example of the Israeli ecosystem that Michal just mentioned, being a kind of a graduate of two Israeli schools in the academia, both Tel Aviv University and the Weizmann Institute of Science. Then I spent 25 years in the Army. Spent 25 years in the unit that was just mentioned. That you can, by the way, find it in Wikipedia under Nadav's previous roles and stuff like that as well. So it doesn't really have to be a closed forum to discuss that unit. But in that unit, I dealt with the cyber operations and intelligence operations and a variety of issues regarding kind of the crossroads of intelligence and technology. Then I left, and in the past several years I've been in the private sector, and it's been only 2 years for me at Checkpoint, so relatively... No, that's okay. So for a 20-year company like Checkpoint, I'm kind of the youngest guy in many senses in the managerial board. And I will try to focus here on the kind of the commercial point of view or the enterprise point of view. There are a variety of aspects regarding cyber security in general, cyber defense, cyber intelligence, and so on. There are many similarities between governments and enterprises, but since we focus on enterprise security and we have tens of thousands of enterprise customers, I'll focus on the way they view security and the way that it affects the way that the solutions, the commercial solutions, are evolving. There are kind of great similarities in certain areas, like everybody needs to defend the data, but there are similarities, I mean, between government and enterprises. However, the kind of risks that enterprise can take are different from governments. The kind of damages or the way they need to protect their customers and their employees' data, it's looked at a bit differently. So from the enterprise security, what's changing and how we view it these days? And I'll take you all quickly to the bottom line and then support it. From my point of view, the main thing that is changing is the role of cyber intelligence in enterprise security. So it's no longer just kind of technology, pure technology that's running. There's a very growing layer of intelligence, of cyber intelligence that needs to support enterprise security and the enterprise security products in order to be effective in this rapidly changing world. And the pace of change was already discussed by the previous speakers. So why is the role of cyber intelligence changing that much, and where is it taking us? So Checkpoint basically started with a firewall, which is still a kind of core security component. But in those days, the focus was on the access part. So that is trying to define in as simple as possible, in an efficient way as possible, what can be done over the network. So who can access what services, what protocols, ports, and so on. And of course, this part of defining what's legitimate is still growing. It's becoming more complex. In these days, you're defining policies not just in terms of ports and protocols. You're defining them in terms of users and roles in the organization. You're defining these policies in terms of these specific applications that you are willing to allow. Can that group of users use that application like Facebook or Google Docs or Dropbox or whatever? But we're still talking about the ways by which we define what's legitimate use of the network. Now, here's a little difference between governments and commercial enterprises. Governments can basically kind of segregate their networks, basically limit the communication means between the internal networks and the external networks to bare minimum or sometimes even to zero. When I was in the service, there was no way, of course, for me to kind of send email from my office desktop to my wife's mobile. There wasn't such a thing. I couldn't download any sort of app into my desktop. And that's, of course, for an enterprise, that's unacceptable. Enterprise are basing their life, their economy, they need to communicate with their customers, with their partners, with the markets, and so on. So while you're able to define what's legitimate and what access policies you allow, you always allow traffic to keep flowing in and out. And it is a fact of life that most of the malware, most of the exploits, most of the breaches started with the use of the legitimate traffic that's going in and out. There are very rare cases you really need to kind of get with a stick into somebody's computer and so on. In most cases, the bad guys, there's a huge economy out there that Michal described. The bad guys are using the legitimate traffic, your email, your access to the web, your FTP connections with your peers, whatever, in order to both inject malware into your network and then exfiltrate the information out of it. So then comes the layer that we call threat prevention. And that's where basically it does not really depend on the enterprise policy. Basically, there are best practices in terms of how to inspect and what you identify as malware, what you identify as illegitimate traffic. And then you start building layers of threat prevention like the antivirus, the old antivirus, and additional layers on top of it. Sometimes we use the terms anti-bot for scanning kind of outbound traffic, a variety of emulation or sandbox technologies that we put on top of those to kind of cope with new types of malware and so on. Now, this threat prevention layer actually requires a lot of intelligence. There are different approaches. Some approaches can go to the okay, there's basically no way for us to understand all of the vulnerabilities in all of the products, all of the ways that viruses might morph, all of the attackers that are out there. Let's just avoid this and can come up with sort of anomaly detection solutions. But we prefer the kind of a more heterogeneous approach. In this approach, you do need intelligence and you do need to kind of follow what goes on out there. Who is attacking whom, with what kind of tools, what vulnerabilities were recently discovered, how they are exploited by certain actors, what types of malware are people now using, what type of bots are targeted at the financial sector, what type of malware is targeted at the kind of physical infrastructure and so on. And in order to kind of cope with all of these and cope with the changes and dynamicity of the actors, you need a very effective intelligence organization. And that's what we are building now in Check Point, and I can talk about it later.
Okay. Thank you, Ron.